Alrighty, good afternoon again. Thank you for joining me for this Google Classroom refresher session. So this is going to be really basic, although with that said, Google Classroom isn't overly complicated, so it will cover probably the more advanced, and if you're pretty comfortable and used to it already. I think the session description specifically referred to some updates also. So there weren't any new exciting updates for this year that have been released yet. So what they have announced for this school year that we're in is something called activity sets. And I don't have a lot of information about what that looks like, but it sounds like being able to build interactive activities within Google that can be reused class to class or year to year, etc. So that sounds like something exciting that's coming. They haven't announced if it would be attached to a paid licensing. So I think we have some people here who are even new teachers with us. So we do not pay for Google licensing at this time. We had done a upgraded license during online learning to give our teachers access to a few more features that come along with the paid licenses. And we're always looking at and reevaluating our software licenses from year to year also. So we do try to stay in touch with the things that are being added to those other paid licenses and anticipate if we think that it would be worth our effort and value to purchase in the future. So there are some things, if you see other PD sessions, or you might see different tips popping up in teacher groups that you follow and things like that, talking about certain things, and you don't see them in your classroom, that will just be because whatever that thing is actually part of premium licensing. So when you are signed into your Google account, your WRPS account, and you go to classroom.google.com, you should automatically be in there as a teacher. So you should see the plus button here. If you're not seeing the plus button, that means that you either aren't part of our teachers group in the Google admin side. So there's just a little adjustment. When you click, you won't be able to create a class, but it'll give you an option to request access, and we would need to add you, but that should have happened by automatically if you're a teacher. So you should be seeing the option to create or join a class when you click the little plus button up here. If you've already got classes, this is that main screen. When you go to the default classroom.google.com, all of your classes pop up here. By default, if you jump up in here and start typing classroom and it autofills and you go to whatever, it's going to take you to the one that you were in most recently. So that's just a little tip between navigating. It will always jump in the most recent classroom that you were in. You can get back to this main page on the menu bar on the side. So this is the classes page. I have I should just say before I go on that if you happen to not be able to create, one other thing that could be happening is if you have another account added in here. So if you have like a personal Gmail, you don't want to have it added within your account. So there should be nothing else appearing under here. And if there is, you'll want to go in to manage your account and get rid of that. So having a personal Gmail added in this way will actually block out some of the EDU features that come with your work account. So that should be done by using profiles. That's up here. And if you need some help or assistance or need to be shown how to do that, we've got some videos and stuff. So you can just email me and I'll point you in the right direction for that. So from the classes page, I have set up top here is the row of classes that this teacher owns and has created. I've got one down here that this teacher has been invited to. This is actually a division breakout class on the digital breakout edu platform. There's just like links to some games and whatever for different grades in here. This is something that you as teachers can be invited to if you'd like. So I've got some for the all of the elementary grades. I think actually there's one for grade 7, 8 also. So same thing, if you shoot me an email, I'll add you to that, and we'll be sending out some larger information to everybody about those and how to get added to these classrooms. So one of the things I will talk about today is how to use stuff out of a divisional classroom like this. So if you've gotten a whole Google Classroom from another teacher or us at the divisional level, how you can easily use that stuff with your students, because it's a little bit different than if you're using a classroom that you have created. So this is the classes main page. There's some shortcuts to the Google Drive folders and the grade books for each of your classes right off this front page. You can see here I have a couple of assignments set up that have a due date coming up this week, so that's also auto popping up on this page. The link to the calendar for all of my class, well, this is a link to Google Calendar. So when you create a class, there's also Google Calendar created for it. So those are automatically added to your Google Calendar, also to your students when they accept the invite to the classroom. So that all happens automatically when that is set up. And then same thing here, it automatically creates a folder in Drive. So for you as a teacher, you will have a single folder, students have a single folder, and then within that will be the other classes that they or you have been in. And I notice there's a lot in here. So everything that's ever been archived is also still living in that classroom folder. That's those 3 elements that you've got some quick access to from this front page. There's 3 little dots on each of these that you can kind of see. And that's the little menu to do some things at this top class level. So we can use the move button. You can also just drag these around if you want to put things in a different order. So you can set this up how you like. You can get the copy of the invite link to the classroom here if you wanted to email that to a student, make edits. So this just means to edit this top level information where you can change the class name and the other stuff there. Copy. This is a awesome feature and something that we highly recommend people use. So rather than using classrooms over from year to year, our highly recommended process is to archive them. I should say first copy it first and then archive it. So when you archive or copy a Google Classroom, it takes everything, all the posts and all the classwork and the way that you have it organized in there. It makes new copies of all of the attachments and everything and puts them in that new folder that it's making. And then you can archive last year's class away. That leaves the student's membership intact, just enough to make sure that their Drive files and everything stay intact for them. So they don't ever see it once you archive it again on their classes page like this, but they can still get back into, if they want to go back to one of their files or documents or things in their folders, this makes sure that they've got access to it. And then creating a new classroom also ensures that you're using like the most updated and latest features that they've rolled out to the Google Classroom platform. So if you reuse a classroom from a year previous, it may not have some of the new features working. And it also, over time, with more updates that come through, they actually become glitchier and just harder to use. So that's just my little soapbox about that. We don't enforce it or anything for sure, but that's recommended practice. Linda, you have a question?
Have they ever said anything about the idea of when you want to reuse an assignment? Like, you know, we copy over the entire classroom to kind of take it away that it hasn't been assigned. Have they ever talked about the idea of just making that assignment or task, you know, to reset that? Because it's such a pain, like the amount of files that you end up having.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, and you know what? Absolutely. I'm going to show you reuse post just a little bit further on, which allows you to do exactly that.
Yeah.
Although, and with that said too, I do think that the activity sets that they're talking about rolling out this year, I think that's kind of the idea with those, is that like the things that the kids are going to do, you'll have like a separate place to store those and grab them from. So if the reuse post isn't your thing, maybe activity sets later this year will do that too. So that was copy, and then archive puts them away. You can always look at all of your archived classes in the menu here. So I can go back and see everything. I could open any of these up and look at them, and then you could actually restore if you needed to. So there's no need to go back to go any further than this and delete these. They could stay there forever. It really wouldn't matter. And then as long as they're archived, you can do the reuse post thing. So you can grab any old classwork from an archived class and then post it into one of your current classes. So that's that. Now, this one I'll just talk about quickly. I mentioned this is a class that another teacher owns and has invited me to teach. This is actually Dan Gray that we're looking at here. So it's my classroom. I've invited Dan to be a teacher. And this here, when he accepts now, he'll have full access to this class. So if you are co-teachers in a classroom with someone else, you both have 100% edit access to everything. So you can do all of the creation, the marking, the moving around of things within the stream, changing in settings and everything. So I don't, I'm going to go back and work in one of the other ones, but this is just to show you this one that I joined. So I can go back to my classes page here. I can also jump quickly between all of my Google Classrooms here in this left menu bar. And clicking the to review button isn't going to show me a whole ton here in my Fate classroom, but that'll take you. So if you have multiple classes set up, you'll see all of the work. So anything you might need to review or students are turning in will be attached here without all of the extra materials that might be attached to those assignments and stuff. So this is a really quick way to see things that need to be looked at. And then you can also toggle over and see anything you have already reviewed and then change to different classes. So I'm just going to jump into math because this one is brand new. So when I've created a new class, and then again, that's here from the start page, we would go create, enter in all of our information. I'm not going to create an extra redundant one right now. When it creates, it will open it right up into this view for you. Once it's ready, it takes a few seconds for it to make it. It will, depending on what the class is called, it's pretty smart about choosing a banner for the top, but you can always click the little customize button to edit this. They didn't used to have the option to upload a photo, but you can adjust the color. I didn't even do anything. It must have changed colors here that I didn't notice. Not the bright pink banner. So this is the stream. This is like sort of like your social media feed to your class. When you post new things in classwork, they automatically pop up in the stream. It goes by with most recent at the top and then oldest going down, just like a social media feed. When you create a brand new class, it gives you this little helpful pop-up here where you can go in and click. It said stream settings, but this is really the whole bank of settings for this individual Google Classroom. So these can be set classroom by classroom. This is your name. You have a chance to edit it or change anything in here if you need. Invite codes under the general piece here. All of this has to do with getting students into your class. So I'm going to show you how you can invite them manually, but you can also just send them a link, post this class code somewhere. They hit the little plus button, join, enter the code, and they are in. So those are different ways to add your students to class. This can be turned off. So if you had an instance where your students maybe had given the codes or you had seemed people were using the codes to join your classroom that shouldn't be, you could turn it right off. And then you could also reset it, which would create a new code. So anything anybody had given out previously will no longer work, but you could have a new code to give to students for joining. And then this button will actually just put it right up so that I could display it in the classroom and have them join live with me right there with it up. So this setting, this is when we click that stream button, it jumped to this part. So these are the settings specific to the stream, and that's that front piece. So this one, I almost always recommend, especially if your students are brand new to using Google Classroom at all, to just flipping that to only teachers can post or comment. So the stream could be a place for really great conversation and such with your students. Typically, the students are really quick to fill it full of sort of nonsense and silly things. So I recommend turning it off, and then maybe moving towards allowing students to only comment on things. So if you wanted to, be able to post a question and actually have your students interact on the platform, you could turn on that students can only comment. And then again, working with your class and depending on your needs, you may work towards actually allowing them to post things on the stream, but those settings are there. By default, it's giving them full access to post and comment. As I said, they do tend to get carried away in a hurry. So that's a way to prevent yourself from having to go through and delete a bunch of posts after the fact, by just saying only I can do that. And then this, I mentioned that all of the classwork, when you post it, it goes on the stream. Well, that's also based on this setting. So by default, it's going to show just a little bit of information about the assignment on the class stream. You can have it post the whole assignment there when you put it up. You can also actually not have it appear on the stream at all. So my style, this is actually my choice. I prefer to just have the students navigate to the classwork page and have a nice organization there, and then use the stream for posting things like updates or announcements or extra information outside the classwork assignments that have been created. But that is definitely personal choice. And then there's a couple of toggles here to show things that were deleted, and then also to turn Guardian summaries on. So when you add students, which I'll show you how to do in just a couple of minutes, there's a spot where you can invite their guardians. You need to get parent email addresses. They'll get an email inviting them to sign up for Guardian summaries. So this is not giving parents access to Google Classroom in any way, shape, or form. If they wanted to look in Google Classroom, they could certainly sit with their child and have their child sign in and access the same way that their child does. But the Guardian summaries gives them a weekly email synopsis, and this is one that I have, of what's been going on. So it's really, really basic. It just lets the parents know that there was some things assigned. If there was due dates, it would let them know that there was due dates that either had passed or were coming up. But it's just, as it says, a weekly summary. When the parents sign up, they have the option to choose between a weekly summary and I think a daily one. And that is completely up to them. They do not have to have a Google account, but they do have to give you an email to put into here to send that invite out. This has to do with doing an online meet, specifically through Google Classroom. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time talking about that right now. We've got videos about doing meets if you need or want some training on that. Probably not a process that we're all doing a whole ton right now. It was really important a couple of years ago, and that was when this was added to Google Classroom. Obviously, COVID and online learning, we saw so many things being piloted, and they were rushing stuff out that much, much faster than they normally do, just trying to get some of these pieces into teachers' hands. So Google Classroom grew incredibly through 2020 and 2021 even. And so this whole Meet piece, it just creates a Meet that you can use with students. Other people can't get into it. It's accessed through the Google Classroom. And it's a really great way, if you have to do online learning, that you can navigate that right through Google Classroom. I'm just going to leave that off for now. And then the last piece in the settings is grading. So there's no official grading in Google Classroom. It doesn't connect up with our SIS or anything like that. With that said, any grading or feedback and things that you do in Google Classroom, of course, the students see. So it's can be valuable, and it can certainly be used for collecting those grades that you're putting into PowerTeacher later. They can be exported out of here and then imported into PowerTeacher if you're actually doing a lot of grading in Google Classroom. But again, that may not be the case when you're in your physical classrooms also. So this is by default just actually set to not do any type of overall grades, but you can do a little bit of simple grade calculation in here. So it would calculate overall grades for you should you choose to do that. And then there's the option if you want to show that grade to the students or not. And then we can set up some different categories in here too. So this is a piece that has changed quite a bit over the last few years. There didn't really used to be any grading, and then it evolved to, you know, assignment per assignment. You could give the students a grade and or some feedback, and now it actually is compiling. So if you've got a class, it's compiling anything that gets scored. And if you want to, you can even go a little bit further with these other settings. If any changes were made on this page, you have to make sure to hit the save button to save them. And that has our classroom all set up. So here's again a quick shortcut to the Meet link. If you ever wanted to create a secure Meet link for you to use with a student, this is a great way to do it. The class code is always obvious here also right on the stream. And then this little button lives there too for popping it up to show. And then if we had any assignments due, those would be showing here also. So as I said, the stream is your place for making announcements to your class. It's like sort of the main page of your class, operates like a social media site with the most recent at the top. You have some options when you go to create something. This is nice if you want to be able to apply something to different classes. So I didn't talk a lot about this sort of organization. If you have one Google Classroom, say grade 6, and within that you have different subjects, that's one way to organize things. As you've seen, the way that I have mine organized is to actually have each of the subjects individualized out. I find that quite a bit easier to manage from the teacher side. I think a lot easier to manage from the student side, especially younger students. And they're not necessarily using this all of the time. So the nice big bright banners, obvious we're going into language arts or math. But again, that organization is really up to you and what works best. So I'm going to show about setting up topics, and then same as with this, I'll talk a little bit about how that would look if you were just going to have one Google Classroom for your class, as opposed to how I have mine set up here with the different ones. So when I go to create something on the stream, as I say, you can go ahead and post it out to any of your classes. And then you can also set up some student groups, which I don't have, so that doesn't give me those. They've got a little bit of editing options here. And then we can also add things from Google Drive, YouTube video links. If you want to share YouTube videos with students, this is the best way to make sure that they can access it, no matter what your settings are at your site specifically. We do have a handful of schools that still actually filter YouTube out on the firewall. So that's like physical, that has nothing to do with our Google accounts. The Google accounts also, though, have some little walls that can get in the way and prevent students from accessing YouTube. So the way it's supposed to work is our little guys should actually only be able to see videos that teachers have shared with them. And this button, using the YouTube button in Google Classroom, is one of the ways that Google recognizes that a teacher is saying, yes, my students can watch this video. So YouTube videos that are shared by clicking on the YouTube button and then pasting the URL in here, as opposed to just pasting a link, you know, in the text body of that post. YouTube videos that are shared that way, students should be able to access no matter what the Google account settings are. We are still seeing that that's not working perfectly, but that's actually something we're planning to work on with IT over the next couple of months. So if you are using YouTube with your students and you're using this button and they are being blocked out, or some of them are, because that happens sometimes too, reach out to us and let us know, because we want to get this working properly so that we know it's a valuable thing. We know almost every teacher definitely uses YouTube videos in some way, shape, or form with their students. And it should work so that you can share them safely, even with younger kids, and they can watch what you want them to watch. So that the YouTube button is important. So even if you've got it embedded in your slides, which that should work if you've shared your slides with students and you've embedded the YouTube video there, that's also supposed to by default give them access. But say you had a link in there or a link on a document or something, that might get blocked, whereas adding that link specifically with the YouTube button here will bypass those blocks and let the kids in. It actually opens the video up right on top of Google Classroom. It doesn't take them over to YouTube. So that's kind of the magic that makes it work. You could upload a file from your device and then also add a link here. Once I put anything in, the little post button will pop up. And then I can also schedule or save these. So if I want to create a few posts ahead and schedule them to go out, I can do that. And then they will post to the stream when I tell them to. I'm going to just cancel that one for now. So I'm going to jump from stream where we started actually over to people, because a classroom with no students is a sad classroom indeed. This is where you can manually invite your students. So I showed you the class codes, and you can definitely get them in easily that way. You can also pop in here and type in their email addresses. So this has to be done one at a time. Google's pretty smart. You can see it knew a couple of the kids I wanted to invite. Oh, there's a few Amy's. So they pop up in the bottom as I click them. They go up top, but you do have to do them one at a time. You can't copy and paste emails into here. It will just get confused. Once I've typed them in and I see their little faces here, I just hit invite. And then I can see that they are popping up as students who have been invited. Then over on the student side, let's just jump over to Mary. Just like when we were looking at this classes page from the teacher view, we're looking at Mary's classroom from the student view. And so she has, it says join as opposed to accept. Once she joins, same thing. She is in. And then I'm just going to close Mary out because we're not going to learn about students today. But just to show, if I refresh, there's Mary. And then you'll also see that Angela Deering is popping up as Mary's guardian. So Angela was previously added to Mary's account by a teacher in a year prior. And so as long as Mary stays with Wetaskiwin Regional, when new teachers add Mary to their classroom, the parent automatically comes through. So that's something that you should be seeing, is that more of your students probably have email guardians set up in here than you would have seen prior to online learning, and everybody having to use this. So if they have a guardian invited, it'll automatically pop up, and this guardian is automatically going to start receiving these emails based on the settings that they chose when they set up their account. Up here is a quick button for sending an email out to all of the guardians, and you'll see it's just taken me over to Google Mail, and it's popped in the parent's email address. So just a quick way to open up Gmail and send that parent an email. If I had all of them, of course, there would have been more than just the Ange Deering email address. The other parents' emails would have been in there too. So that's how you add students. When I select a student, the little actions button highlights up that I can use it. So in here, I have the ability to email an individual student if I wanted to do it that way. I can also remove them from the classroom and mute. So this is in the instance that I am allowing students to comment or post things on our stream, and everybody handles it really well except for Mary. So I'm not going to punish the whole class and turn the stream off. I'm just going to mute Mary, and maybe Mary just gets muted for a bit. That will determine a little bit later down the line. But that's the ability to allow some students have access, and then also give other students not access. If you have a co-teacher, a colleague that you want to add with that top teacher level, you can also do that from here. The grades tab is a newer update within the last definitely couple of years, and it's obviously you can see I have nothing in here yet, so there are no grades populating for math. Once students start doing assignments and things start getting assessed, then that sort of spreadsheet will build within here, and I can see, make edits, and then export it. And last, but definitely not least, so this is the real meat of Google Classroom, where you will put all of the assignments and work and things that your students are going to do. I want to actually jump into one that I've got that's organized a bit. So this is a CTF course that I built actually last year that's got all of the units and everything laid out, which just makes a nice sort of overall year view. There would be no expectation that you're starting out at the beginning of the year and setting this all out for the year. You can certainly be creating things as needed when needed. The nice thing about having this structure, though, and thinking about your organization and moving through the year with that, is then that copying the whole classroom or reusing a post from before becomes really easy, because your initial classroom, your sort of your template, has been set up in a nicely organized way. So these are topics on the side that I have been set up. In this case, they worked out to 2 units. So this makes an shortcut navigation menu right over here on the side for yourself and for the students. If we're getting close to the end of the year and we need to get all the way down to the last unit, it's here. So you can see these ones here are not finished. They're just living in draft. Actually, all of these are living in draft because I copied this whole classroom. So on the first class page, when I was talking about copying the whole classroom over, this is one that I accepted the invite from myself. I accepted the invite from another teacher. They don't want me adding my students to their classroom. When we make division classes, same thing. We don't want you, we'll add you as a teacher. That is just so that you can either copy the whole Google Classroom or reuse posts from it. So this is a case where I copied the whole classroom. It takes quite a few minutes to do that. I won't do that live. We don't need to wait and watch it since this one is already done. And then it posts everything in draft. So even though it copied the whole Google Classroom, this isn't all live yet, you still have to manually post each lesson. So if you want all of the lessons available to the students right off the bat, then you would have to go through each of them, open them up in the edit. This one's giving me some tutorial tips yet, which you will see a lot, especially when you're accessing new features or new things that you haven't been in before. So I can make some adjustments here. It's set to each student will get a copy. Oh, this one was assigned already, and save. Back to all topics. Here's my draft ones. So I had set, I set these ones up. The rest of them are still in draft. So as we come along, this is where I would edit. Always check this file setting here. So on division ones that I set up, this is set to just view only, just to make sure that I don't accidentally end up with a whole lot of extra copies of anything. So when you go to edit this assignment that's been copied before you post it, you really want to check this. So this, make a copy for each student, and I will talk about this feature again when I go over creating a new assignment. This is going to take this slideshow, right? And it's going to make one for Amy and one for Sam and one for Mary, and it's going to take my title and add their name to it. they're all going to live in one folder for me, and each of them will have it in their own folder. It's perfect. If you happen to assign this and miss changing the setting, so if you assign it with the edit or the view, you can't go back and change it. You actually have to delete the whole assignment and recreate it. So when you want to make a copy of something here for every student, when you hit the assign button, it actually makes those copies. So as I said, if you miss that, you can't go back and edit. Everything else in here can be edited after you've posted it to students. So that's the one caveat, is you cannot go back and change a file to make a copy for everybody if you missed it on this step. Once I hit assign, oh, I'm going to pick a due date here. So I can add a new due date. Let's go ahead. Well, that's a bad due date. We don't have school. And assign. And now my little grayed out draft lesson will be properly in black. And then these are still living in draft. So I can see these, the students cannot. When I click on them, more details open up. So again, this is a sort of big picture, end in mind, a whole course sort of laid out with the different lessons and the student work. Let's look at how that starts when we're just a little earlier on. So when your classwork page is just empty, it's a blank canvas that you can start building things on. We are looking in language arts now. So I will always recommend starting by creating some topics. It is going to help you and your students throughout the year. So these are probably not even going to be very good, because I'm just going to make one or two on the fly. This will give you some insight into what grades my teaching experience was in, possibly. Let's go April, but we'll still do poetry. So there's my 2 new topics, and then you see that this starts to build on the side. So you can't put subtopics in, though I bet that's something that has been asked for, or would be a great thing to ask for. Little sidebar, anytime you're in Google, whether it's Drive, Calendar, Mail, Classroom like this, look for the little question mark button like this one down here in the bottom corner. And when you click on it, you have what's new. And then there's this little option to report an issue or request a feature. So this is, let me get that to pop up. So it's popping up over here on the side and giving me the option to either report an issue or, as we say, suggest an idea. So something like that, you think subtopics in Google Classroom is a really good idea as you're in there working with it. Or like Linda, your question you asked earlier too, if there's some way you think that the Google product can be better, I go in here and fill this out. I've had opportunity to do some PD sessions with David Harrington and some other people from Google Education, and they insist that these feedback loops, people, the most requested updates and all of those things, when their developers go to find new things they want to work on in Google products, they find that stuff in these feature requests. So that's just a little sidebar about everything Google. Use the question mark, use it lots. And then same thing with the issues. When things just aren't working right, you're noticing glitches and things like that. The more people that report those things or suggest those things, the higher they go up the queue and the more likely they are to happen. So that's Google's little report feature that I love. Now, let's get back to creating this classroom. So I went and set up some topics, and now I can do a few other things. Oh, I have another topic I want to set up here, actually. So I like to have materials topic right at the top of my classwork. These little 3 dots here allow you to reorder these. So if I wanted to put poetry at the bottom, I could do that. If class materials wasn't at the top, I could move it. I like to keep that up there. This is where I might put things like links to certain websites that we use all of the time. Maybe the link to the their their Power School is there so they can check on grades. If you've got digital versions of your textbook and things like that, they could live in the class materials. And then as you can see, there is also a material option. Excuse me, specifically in here. The material option is one of those things that was requested by a lot of people that Google ended up adding into Classroom because of that, because people wanted to be able to post something that their students could have access to, but that it didn't want to add that turning it in, recording it piece, because it's something they use all the time. So when you go to add a material, the edit screen looks a lot like most of them. Oh, I'm going to need to have a drink. And you have the options here at the bottom to include items out of your drive. Again, there's that YouTube link that bypasses the Google restrictions and allows students to watch something you want them to. You can actually start to create a new docs, slides, sheets, or drawings right here. So if what you need is like, oh, I think zooming in and out might be, I can try. That could be a little troublesome. We'll see how I do. You're watching on a it doesn't look too bad. Is that a little bit better? Awesome. So the docs, slides, sheets, drawings, I could create something here. It will. So you saw that it was creating, and then because Google just assumes I want to open that document up and be in it, it's opened on a new tab over here, a brand new blank document. So if my purpose, I really just needed to, this is brutal, give it a title, and the students are going to have some kind of instructions, and they're just going to work in this document. Just creating this blank document and giving it a name is going to help me with my organization, because it's going to make that copy, put the kids' names in it, put them all in Google Classroom automatically. So it's a good idea to go ahead, even if you just want to have them turn something in that's on a document, to create it, give it a name that probably matches the assignment at the time. And then that will just make things a little bit more seamless for you. There'll be one naming convention. You won't be getting untitled documents emailed to you randomly from your students. It'll all be there in Google Classroom. And see, this is, Dan hasn't been in Google Docs since the Pageless format came in. So that's right in his face. If you haven't checked out Pageless Google Docs, they're really cool. There's no page boundaries. So, and then back on the Classroom page, it's still calling it untitled document. It hasn't updated through yet, is connected here also. So this is a material. There is no drop down arrow here that says make a copy, all of those things. So that's only possible when we're posting an assignment. A material is just meant to be something that the students access. So not probably a blank document with anything on it. I would have put something in here. Maybe it's our vocabulary terms for this unit or whatever. We could add as many things to a single post as we like. And then same thing, as soon as I start to type a title, a little post button pops up and will allow me to post. I created topics, so I could put those in one of these, but this one's a class material, so I'm going to put it in the topic that I created for that. And then again, if it actually applied to other classes, I could pop it into all of those right here too. Oh, let's get a pop back open. So there it is in the class stream. It's a little bit bigger. And it's got that nice little icon because it's a material that the students can use. So that is materials. Question. Pretty self-explanatory. They give you the choice of short answer or multiple choice. Put that in, leave it as a short answer. Again, we've got the option to add to multiple classes. Students, I could now, that I've got these students added in. I could toggle some of them off if I needed to. I'm going to set this one to ungraded. So we can do ungraded or put in a number to say how many points it's out of. Go ahead and pick a due date. Ready. And then here at the bottom, there is a couple of options. So this is going to post short answer. Everybody, all students have the opportunity to answer it. I can have on or off that they can reply to each other, and then on or off that they can go back in and change what they've posted. And then as you can see, this is the default, is to allow them reply, but to not allow them to edit. We'll stick with the default. Our little arrow here again gives me the opportunity to schedule this for later, save it, get rid of it. Asking is going to go ahead and post it out too. So you'll notice questions are just appearing right at the top of classwork with the, what did I miss? Because I missed putting it in the topic. So it will appear at the top if you don't assign a topic. Otherwise, we can also go ahead and add it to one of our other topics. I'm going to go with no topic. You can create a new topic in here too. So if you're into an assignment, oh, I forgot to create the topic for that. You can do it right from here too. Let's make one. Save. So now I've got my exit tickets. That question's in the right place. Again, I went and edited that here. So anytime like that, if you notice you forgot to do something, you want to change something, you can go in here and edit, get rid of it if needed. And then I want to go ahead and put my materials back at the top. So I'm going to have class materials at the top. We'll keep exit tickets right below it. And there's my little icon that shows that this one is a question. If I open it, this is where my students' responses will appear for me. I could toggle back and see what the question was here, and then just go back to my language arts stream page here. By default, clicking them opens and closes them. This is something I actually just showed my own son this the other day, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't know that stuff was there." So when you click on the little bar, anything that's attached to this pops up. You see this one, the assignments here, and that's the way all of the assignments are too. And then clicking them again puts them away. Your students might not know that. So that's the question. I'm gonna go up to the top now and go ahead with just a normal assignment. So this is the meat of Google Classroom. This is where it started. And back initially, all you could have posted was assignments with things attached. I'll just here. So we can type in as many instructions as we like. Again, here's all the same buttons that we saw, whether you're posting on the stream or you're creating a material, you have the opportunity to add as many of any of these as you like. And we can navigate right into Drive and find something. I love that it will automatically pop up with the most recent things you've been working on. So if you've got your materials, you were just doing them, now you're posting them to Classroom. When you open this up, it's automatically going to be showing you the stuff that you want because it's right there that you're working on it. I'm just going to pick something here. Random. So this is lovely that it's even giving us this warning. That's that drop down arrow that I was talking about. That's very important. We don't miss this step before we assign the assignment, because it's the one single thing that you cannot edit after you have shared this assignment out to your students. The copies get made when we hit assign. So we want to make sure, if our intention is for every kid to have a copy of this, which most things you send out probably are, we want to hit that. So now when I assign it, it's going to take this whole slideshow, make a copy for every kid in my class, use that title with their name, and then I'm going to have access to all of them within Classroom, and then they will also pop up in that Classroom folder in Google Drive. So if you are like navigating through things through your Drive and that's how you want to find it, they will be there. They'll also always be right attached to the assignment in Classroom. So again, all these same options to go through the defaults are one class, always 100 points here. Pick a due date. You don't have to have a due date. That's okay too. This does not really fit in any of my things for sure. And then down here at the bottom is the rubric builder. So you can import a rubric that's built in Google Sheets. You can reuse one that you've used on an assignment before, and then you can create one from scratch. I'm just going to go into their creation one so that you can see what this looks like. So you enter your criteria and enter your descriptions. And then if you're using, 1, 2, 3, 4 points, then you would go ahead and add 3 more, set those up accordingly. We can add, I'm not gonna spend a ton of time walking through this with you, just so that you're aware it's there. If you want to attach a rubric, I typically build them in Google Sheets and import them. I just live in that world. Often you can find, or you have a rubric already that's in that sort of same format, and it's a little bit easier. I do have a template for that also, so it has to be set up a little bit different, but if you have a copy of the template, it's really easy. So I can definitely share that with you guys. Probably even at the end of the session, it should be fairly easy to find. And then if you use the template, fill it out, upload it here, you've got the opportunity to use your rubric then when you're scoring student work that is turned in. Due date, good. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this. And that is assignment. Oh, it's 1:22. I didn't think this would take an hour. And then there's our new assignment here with its due date and everything showing. So the last in here is the quiz assignment. So this is going to set up, see, it's created a blank Google form for me. So it's just created a blank Google form, and it's turned on the locked mode on Chromebook. So you can do this through Google Classroom. You can also set up a Google form and toggle that little switch on the Google form as well. I think just tech-wise, they tend to work better. We see less issues with kids accessing in locked mode if they've accessed it this way. But that's what that's doing. And then it's automatically going to pull the grades, this little toggle, over to the grade piece in Classroom. You have a question, Michelle?
Yes. Guess my camera's not in the right place though. So the locked mode on Chromebooks, I don't understand what that's for.
So that if you have that toggled on, when the students are doing that form on a Chromebook, it won't let them open any other tabs.
Oh, yes.
The only thing they'll be allowed to be in is the form. Yeah.
Thank you. It's been forever since I needed that. Thank you.
No worries. That's why we're doing this. Thank you for asking a question. I was hoping everybody was still awake out there. It's not the same as doing it on a Friday PD day. Patrick, you have a question too?
Yeah, that's maybe a comment question. I know I've had issues with locked, and other teachers have had issues when we lock that, and then you can't get a hold of those marks. It exports them somewhere, and if you can, it's by email, one at a time. I think.
Oh, really?
I think you have instructions on how to be very careful setting that up. But I know I've had to go back
and that was
do it before.
And that was done through Classroom, or was that done using the locked mode, like directly through Forms?
That's through Classroom. And I know go through Forms rather than quizzes in Classroom, you avoid all of that. So
okay, gotcha. Well, that's good advice then.
And I have to go look it up every time because I've done it. It's quite a few times where I give the kids a quiz and then I can't get a hold of the marks. So,
really?
But often I've even had them where they've come up one at a time and shown me the mark because they've got it, but I can't.
Well, good problem solving. I'm actually gonna make a note on that because I haven't had an opportunity to test it myself, but I should check that out. Linda?
Patrick, have you tried getting the marks from the spreadsheet? Because that'll give you everything.
Yeah, and the spreadsheet connected to the form.
You have to be very careful because they won't show up in there. You have to look it up by email number. So it's just number.
Really? That's strange. I haven't had that happen yet, thank God.
A few other
stuff. So even on because I was gonna say, like when you open the form, you should have access to the responses here.
Yeah, like in 2 different places, really. If you've got the individual.
So I know that they may, like, I get they may not pull through into the Google Classroom side. So actually, maybe it's actually really good that you brought that up too, Patrick, because that's if, like, see, this is toggled for grade importing, but if they don't pull back into Google Classroom, and I'm actually even remembering this coming up in online learning, when you use a form and you're on this, if you go on the responses and then do the little, like, you can create like a new spreadsheet to pull them out. So at least you would see them all in a spreadsheet instead of having to do one at a time. And then this quiz should be in my that filter doesn't work. It's there's that the quiz is here in Google Drive too. So that may be it too, is just sort of knowing where those documents live.
No, I've
all right,
I've
so
back end, and it just won't open up, that it locks it for you, right? So
really,
I've spent quite a bit of time on it a few times, and I've done the workaround with a couple of other staff members as well. So
and who ends up owning the form then? Like, it's not in your drive at all?
No.
Oh,
you can't see it. And then again, like, the student names aren't there either, right? So if you can go in one at a time.
Oh, I see what you're saying. When it comes in with their, I see what you're saying, because it's got their email address instead of their names.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So there's a couple of tabs you want to be fairly careful when you're using the quiz. And I know you do have it in one of the tutorials. And
probably, well, possibly, and that would be a forms thing, probably specifically too, because I think, like, that would be one of the things too. This quiz assignment is a little bit newer in Classroom from to other things.
So if you're not worried about kids cheating and having other screens open, it's sometimes better just to have it as a form. That's kind of what I'm at.
Right. All righty. 2 more minutes. I got to show you how to reuse a post. Linda's been waiting this whole time. She's probably figured it out on another screen already. So the last thing is the reuse post. So this can be from, like I said earlier on, archived classrooms from years past. It can be from other classes that are active right now. And then also any classes that you've been added as a co-teacher to, like a division class. So those ones, like I said, those breakout EDU ones, if you ask to be into those and you're using those, if you end up using any of our CTF ones moving forward, or we've actually had, I think, Linda, you may have been given some Google Classrooms at one point from Wild Rose. Every once in a while, we might get some from other school jurisdictions. Reuse post is a way to get those without having to copy the whole thing at once, and to sort of use one thing at a time. So click, pops up my big selector. It's grabbing the ones. That's interesting. I archived these ones yesterday, so it's putting them. It thinks that I want to go into there. I'm actually going to go to this one because I know it's got some stuff in there that's going to be easy to post. Choose the class I want to come from. Scroll through and find the lesson. So this can be, and you'll notice they're actually, so they're in reverse order for the ones that I have actually completed. So they're starting here. I can tell these are the ones, the first 6 units in this are finished. And so then the first one's here, and then they go up as I want to send them out. So let's just start with the first one. And then this little toggle box at the bottom would just be the most important thing here. I would recommend doing the new copies just to keep everything in one place. That is going to create all those extra things, like you said, Linda. So you could say don't, and then the kids would be accessing last year's version of that, and that would be okay too. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that would be a really bad idea to not create new copies. Yeah, because as long as you...
I've used that.
Go ahead, Linda.
It just would be nice if they had, like, directly on the actual assignment, like task or whatever, to just toggle it. Just toggle it.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's tedious when you have as many Google Classrooms as I do. Going through that is like
for sure. Absolutely. And so it could definitely be more efficient. Hey, that's a good one. That's a good idea. Click the question mark, tell Google. So that takes, so once I hit the reuse button, it doesn't automatically post that assignment out. It opens up this edit screen again that has everything that I can just check. And then if I want to check this setting, make sure it's how I want it, all of these things, set a due date, etc., before I actually assign it to my students. So that's the reuse thing. It just pops up, auto-populates all that stuff into this edit screen. This is interesting. It actually should be showing the preview. This testing account just doesn't have access to the shared drive that this document is in. So your students will have access because it won't be a testing account that's locked out of certain things. Again, I can add multiple things to this. So I can take that reuse post and then put other things in if I want. That's one that's already there. YouTube videos, links, etc. Attach a rubric. I'm running a little bit over, but I was going to go back to this one and see if I could find one that I know has a rubric attached right away. This one does. Notice how, see, I said this was really important. Classroom thinks it's really important too. It's jumping up every time and saying, are you sure that this setting is right? It's not. I want to make a copy for each student. And then I wanted to open this one up just so I could show you guys what that rubric looks like in here. So this is one that I would have made on a spreadsheet and imported. And then it looks like this to me. And then it also looks like this to the students so that they could see how they were going to be scored. All right, well, I am at the end. Unless anybody has any other questions. I didn't have a chance to turn in work and look at the grading piece. I anticipate doing maybe another session if people are interested in talking about that and giving student feedback, scoring things within Classroom, and those kind of things a little bit on a future PD day. Let me know if you have any questions. You can email.